Hi everyone, I'm Austin from Wristcheck, and today we are in Lausanne, and I'm about to meet Guido Terreni, the CEO of Parmigiani, a brand that has blown up in the past 5 years. Is this even Switzerland? It's dope though. I guess I'll wait for Guido here. I wonder what he's gonna pick me up in.
Hey Austin!
Oh, Guido! Oh my God, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh my God, we're biking?
Of course.
Amazing, I wasn't expecting this.
Have some fun today.
Let's go.
Let's go.
It's a beautiful day. Wow, so you changed?
Yeah. Well,
That was very fast. Well, where are we now?
we're in the villa of Parmigiani Fleurier. That's where my office is.
Amazing.
And where we have part of the team. The other part is on the other side of the street.
Oh,
Where
wow.
you have the restoration, the operations, development and design, and after sales.
Amazing.
That's it.
Well, let's take a look then.
Okay, let's go.
So a lot of now legendary watchmakers started their journey and cut their teeth in this very workshop. I mean,
Indeed.
from Denny Flageolet from De Bethune to Kari Voutilainen, who lives right up there, to even the most recent winner of the LVMH Watch Prize, Raoul Pages. And so first of all, how did this come to be? And second of all, how has these legends helped Parmigiani, or what's the relationship that you guys have with them?
Well, Michel is an independent mind who in the 1975, when everybody was going quartz, he decided to restore ancient watches because he felt that there was a risk of losing a cultural patrimony, which was the art of mechanics. And so he devoted his life to perpetuating the mechanical art. When you perpetuate an art, you have to do it through people. The art doesn't perpetuate itself.
Yeah.
So he becomes a mentor, he becomes a master watchmaker who, through his work, perpetuates not just the art of mechanics, but also through new watchmakers that he teaches. And then they become entrepreneurs of their own. So it's part of sharing without return, because basically there's no return of what you gift, which is your work. But in the end, it's good for the whole industry that there are artisans like Kari, like everyone who can put their hands on such a beautiful craft.
So since joining the brand in the middle of the pandemic, or the beginning of the pandemic, you've achieved a lot, right? That's an understatement. And so what is your vision for the next 5 years?
Well, nobody has a crystal ball, but what we have to always think is to continue to create desire, because purchasing a watch is not an obligation. You don't need a luxury watch. You want to please yourself, and you want to gift yourself, indulge yourself with something that is irrational and emotional. So how to nourish that desire sticks to the values. The values of the brand, the values of understatement and historical knowledge and cultural knowledge and craft. And this has to continue for Parmigiani Fleurier. So it's like a personal brand. You don't change your values. You can evolve, but your true core has to remain like that. And so the vision is to continue to find the ways to please the next gen clientele with surprising, interesting evolutions, respecting the core.
Had such an incredible time visiting the manufacturers and looking at the case making and the dial making of the Toric. And so, this watch is absolutely incredible in the flesh. This is the first time seeing it, actually in the real. And so tell me a little bit about, the inspiration of this and how it came to be.
I mean, what we try to do with this timepiece is to move forward the aesthetic codes of masculine elegance.
Yeah.
A dress watch usually is a very formal execution of a watch, and this goes back to a cultural and social history of how men dressed since the Industrial Revolution. So basically, for 200 years, men were dressing the same way, like as it was a uniform. Now you have an evolution of the taste, which is going towards a less formal attire. We don't wear a tie anymore. I'm not wearing even a shirt today.
Yeah.
But still, you want to be elegant. You're not dressing down. So, what would be that watch that would accompany this evolution, this modern way of being elegant, without being following a rule? No. And that's what we try to do. First of all, you have to respect the tradition of watchmaking. So. And you have to have a style which is, for us, very Parmigiani, which is very pure, very minimal in the purity of the idea. But then when you go and look at the finishing, it's completely complex, and it goes back to tradition. The dial, again, is very consistent with the PF collection, where the Tonda PF stated this minimal rich style with the logo without the writing and with a very open dial with the dial indexes around the outside. And then what do we want to do? We wanted to interpret those dials that very popular in the 50s and the 60s, where there was still a minimal attire, where you had these dials who were cheveux. They were flat at the center, and then they dropped over towards the end. Sometimes you had also the hands that were bent out of the minute hands. And we reinterpreted that look by having a flat dial with a biseau, with a polished edge, like a step, and then you have the minute scale, which is rounded, going down, diving in a curve on the outside. And the dial technique is crazy because it's grené main.
Yeah.
And Michel himself recuperated this from restoration. This tradition is not anymore done, or very rarely done, on series watches that are serial watches. And you had to go back to the origin of a handmade grené. A grené is a treatment that you saw today, where by hand you are having an abrasive, substance that is a melange, a mixture of powder of tartar, of salt sea, and of silver, powder of silver, and all amalgamate all together. You brush it by hand, and according to how much stiff and how much thick the brush is, you have a wider or a thinner grain that comes up to the dial, and this gives you a matte surface that is interesting. It's not a plain dial, but it gives you a reflection of the light, which is incredibly modern to me, even if it's a traditional technique. And then you make the gold come up to life again, because the dial is in solid gold, and you have this outline of the circle, which is basically taking out the grené main treatment and polishing it. So you have to be very attentive to do it perfectly well. And then also in the counter of the petite seconde, you have the same approach. On the markers, you have the same approach. So they're not indexes applied, they are engraved. So you make the seconds come out like this. And then you apply the gold index on the outside on the curved surface.
Even though the dials are very simple, they do not feel empty.
No.
And this is something that is very rare in watchmaking, because normally if a dial is like this, they will use huge indexes or they will try to overcompensate, but you guys didn't do any of that, which is incredible. And also, if I didn't see this manufacturing process, I wouldn't have thought that it was done by hand.
Yeah. The majority of the dials that are done grené today are done through laser technique.
Yeah.
So you reproduce the grené through laser.
Yeah.
This is handmade grené, which is extremely rare to do, and it's something that in tradition is not written. So Michel had to recuperate it through restoration, the technique to do it, and taught it to cadence to make it again.
I love it.
And then you have another detail, which is the strap. Now, the color of the strap was already a choice. Yeah. But it's a alligator, which is nabouk, so it's very soft. Yeah. And very matte. And then you see that there is.
I hate glossy straps.
There is a stitching which is handmade, which goes back to Napoleon suits. It's called the punto a mano. It's a stitch that is distant. They're about 3 millimeters from one stitching to the other, and this is a signature of sartorial stitching, very high-end stitching. It's an aesthetic recall now to a sartorial approach. And the fact that we have a double barrel on our base caliber, we wanted to make it protagonist. So the two barrels are extremely finely decorated with this colimaçonné treatment. The bridges are in steel that are keeping the two barrels are handmade. You can see them by the angles that are very sharp, and only hand finishing can do that angle. And so you are bringing a protagonism to the conception of the double barrel in a modern way. And then you have the finishing on the gold, which is a Côte de Fleurier.
Yeah.
It is a Côte de Fleurier that Michel designed to have a finishing which is extremely particular, but it doesn't age in the way that it's conceived. It's a Côte de Genève, basically, thin, done double, because you have a Côte de Genève vertical and a Côte de Genève in diagonal that make this crossed motif. And then you have also the detail of the PF logo, which is applied on the platine. It's not in the platine like if it was a dial, to give this preciousness of the branding on the movement. And the last thing is the crown. When you have a mechanical watch, you want a generous crown because you want to have the pleasure to touch that down. And to admire this, Michel always wants a pin buckle, because if you had a blade in your eyes, you can appreciate the work on the movement. So to have a pin buckle is the best way to admire movement.
So since you have such an attention to detail and such a great eye for not only watches and design, which is, very clear from the past few years, I would like to know more about, if you had a dream watch collection of, let's say, 3 to 5 watches that are not Parmigiani, what would you pick?
Well, I have a sweet spot for Vacheron Constantin. It was my father's watch. And in their collection, I love the Vacheron Constantin American in 1921.
I love that.
Which is very unique and very, very elegant and special. I like that very much that creativity. Well, I have to fit in the Octofinissimo Automatic, which is
also your baby,
which I'm not very proud of. And I'm impressed with what Mr. Schöffel is doing with Ferdinand Berthoud.
Yes.
In particular, I love the FB2RE, the remontoir.
Sick.
It's really beautiful.
And the finishing is just...
I think it's one of the most beautiful watches in the industry. And then I would add probably the minute repeat of Lange, the Zeitwerk with
striking time, or the
with the numbers that are analogical. Yeah. I find that very, very nice mechanically and aesthetically.
What are your interests outside of watchmaking? Like, what do you do in your free time?
Well, common things. I mean, friends, family. Join my passions, which are motorbiking, skiing, going out, theater, cinemas, restaurants. I mean, very simple things.
Yeah. Amazing. Switzerland's a great place to
very much,
and just as we did earlier.
It's a natural playground. I mean, it's great.
So you've been in the watch industry for not a short period of time, and so if you weren't in the watch industry, what industry do you think you would have A, got into, or B, what does the industry think that you would want to get into that you never had the opportunity to do if watchmaking was not a thing?
Well, I think if I would go back, I would probably study architecture.
Yeah.
Become an architect, because I think it's a beautiful job to imagine a home, or to imagine how to interact with physical space and emotional space at a larger scale. And probably if I hadn't done that, or I hadn't been in the watch industry, my dream job would be probably head of Moto Guzzi. That's a wonderful brand, which Italian. I have plenty of things to do on that one.
Yeah. Nice. So at Parmigiani, you haven't been here for too long, but you've completely transformed the brand. And so I'm sure there's many, but if you had to pick one or two, what would be your proudest moments?
Well, I think it remains the creation of the Ton d'APF, because the urgency of the moment, and because of the timing and how we did it. It was an alignment of the stars, and when we managed to present it in Geneva Watch Days in 30th of August, it was a moment of, I don't know, there was such an adrenaline, because it was so new for us, for the brand, for the audience, and we were all eager to feel the response. And I think that that period was the most intense and the most rewarding.